आप में से काफ़ी लोग चाहते हैं कि सीए आर्टिकलशिप में रिफॉर्म आना चाहिए। फ्रेंड्स, मेरा नाम है सीए योगेश वर्मा और आर्टिकलशिप में रिफॉर्म दो तरीकों से ही आ सकता है। एक जो इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स ऑफ इंडिया लेकर आए और दूसरा जो हम लोग लेकर आए। आज मैं आपके सामने अपना रिफॉर्म प्रस्तुत करने वाला हूं, जिससे कि बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट्स का फायदा होने वाला है। डू यू वांट टू नो हाउ द स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिट इज डन बाय अ पार्टनर ऑफ टॉप सीए फर्म एंड वेदर यू वांट टू वर्क इन अ टॉप सीए फर्म? द आंसर इज यस, ऑफ कोर्स सर। हमें तो सबसे टॉप फर्म में ही काम करना है। तो उसके लिए आपको 10 से 12 घंटे काम करना होगा और 10 से 12 घंटे काम अगर आप कर सकते हैं तो मुझे पूरा विश्वास है ये पूरा जो 1 घंटे का सेशन मैं आपके लिए लेकर आया हूँ बाय एक्सपीरियंस चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट हु हैज द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ 20+ years इन ऑडिटिंग is going to give you the insight of how a partner of a top firm looks at the financial statements and what is the audit procedure they follow. So let's begin the show. Friends, welcome back here. So we have one of our guest faculty in today's session, and her name is CA Deepa Agarwal, who is a partner in one of the top CA firm and practicing since last 20 years.
Yeah, I'm holding a COP, but largely my profile is I started my career with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and I'm working more in the technical role with the audit teams.
Right. So friends, as you know that this particular session is all about bringing a partner so that they can provide a holistic view on how they look at the financial statements or on a company as a whole. Because as a trainee, we won't be able to look at on a broader perspective because we don't have any experience and we don't know how to look at the board of directors, the company business, etc. and etc. So this session is particularly targeted where the partner will tell her view on how they look at the company and consider whether to accept a client or not. So initial we'll talk about the client acceptance, and later on we'll definitely talk about how analytical review is done of a particular company. So welcome, ma'am. Hope you will find this session useful. So it will reach thousands of students later on once it is published on YouTube and LinkedIn. So please welcome CA Deepa Agarwal, ma'am. Ma'am, welcome to the show, and please give us some insight on the topic which is mentioned.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yogesh, and welcome to everyone. And I wish everyone is fine with the families and all of the students which you mentioned. I hope they're preparing well for the exams. And thanks for inviting me. And I think there's a great forum and the work which you're doing, and I much appreciate the efforts. So as you mentioned that, what I'm going to talk about is largely the role, responsibilities, and more specifically the review which the audit partner does, irrespective of the size of the firm. I'll would not like to mention anything on the large firm and the small firm, but definitely it's what has been envisaged in these standards in auditing in the framework and has, as an audit partner, has an equal responsibility. So irrespective, maybe the responsibility will change depending on the size of the company, depending on whether it's a public company, a private company, or an unlisted or listed company. But I think the responsibility remains the same. Before I start, I'm more than sure that each and every person who will be listening to the session will aspire to become a partner somewhere or the other. And I'm sure once they will clear the exams and have their COP, nobody can stop them in signing the audit report if they clearly follow the standards and if they become a partner. And I think Institute is also encouraging big time, the small and mid-sized practitioner firm, which is something very encouraging. So now let's first talk who is an engagement partner. So he's the one who is responsible for the overall audit engagement, signing of the audit report, and also answering regulator inquiries. And think we all of us keep on reading in the newspapers. This auditor has not reported that, and this is something the regulator is expecting. So I think there's a huge increasing expectation from the stakeholders, from the company, as well as from the regulator, be it ICI, be it MCA, be it NAFRA. So yes, when you become an auditor, you have to carry a huge responsibility on your shoulder. So engagement partner in nutshell is responsible for the overall supervision of the engagement team members, as well as compliance with these standards in auditing. And here I would like to mention that, standards in auditing is something which is mandatory for each and every member. And what I'm going to talk about, and I've tried to structure in some of the key steps, again, flowing from these standards in auditing when the audit engagement is executed. And it is critical that the engagement partner is involved in the direction and supervision of the team throughout all phases of the audit. So the partner review, so I just want to highlight in the beginning, does not come towards the end. what we do and what we also encourage everyone right from the planning stage. When you accept the client and from the planning, how do you plan? What type of company it is and what kind of issues you can face depending on the company, the nature of the company. You need to plan well in advance, conduct the audit, keep on talking to the management, the board of directors. In a small company, it could even be a promoter, sole proprietor, depending on the structure of the company. So if I talk about the auditing standards again for a minute, every standard has a responsibility for the audit partner. What is the auditor supposed to do? So if I talk about simple SA 220, it talks about the auditor is required to maintain the standard on quality control on each and every engagement. So if I'm signing or anyone is signing with his membership number and with UDIN, which is now required by the ICI, it is very important that each of these standard quality control procedures are being followed. So what I have done, Yogesh, for the benefit of the student, I have structured and, I'll just briefly explain the 12 steps, and please, whenever you have a question, pause me and I would like to answer that. So the first question I start with before I get into the financial statement is accepting the right client. I think this is something very important when my when these students or my peers will be, accepting an audit. It's very important. Each and every firm may have a different protocol for accepting the audit. But what is really important is to understand the background of the client, that, whether it's a reputed company, how long, when it was established, what is the nature of the business carried on by the company, the reputation of the company. You can search about the media articles. You can look at who are the shareholders of the company, whether it's a private company or a public company. Look at the last year financial statement. So if it's a new company and it's audited by another auditor, then what the auditor will do will obtain look at the financial statement and the auditor's report and look at the audit report modifications. Look at the IFC report, the internal financial control report, and look at the CARO qualification. Is there anything which is raising a red flag, while you're accepting the client, you should be aware of. So, this research has to be done in the beginning. And once the auditor is satisfied that the client acceptance is fine, I don't see any issues in the beginning, then the client acceptance procedure is done. And then, the other engagement formalities come. So, which is nothing but the signing of the engagement agreement. Now, why I'm talking about the engagement agreement, this is also something very important. And if the students will also learn, in their study material, they'll talk about the peer review, QRP. There are a whole set of observations collated in the study material, and wherein they will figure out that in many of the cases, the observation is the partner started the work without signing the engagement agreement, or they're signing much later. So, for example, before issuing the audit report. So this is something one needs to be careful of. The audit partner has a responsibility to make sure that the engagement agreement is signed before the work is started, because this is something how you mitigate your risk. You agree on the terms of for example, I want to do an audit for the company for the year ending March 2022. So I'll mention in the engagement letter that this is the statutory audit, and this is the management will provide me the entire information, the financial statement, the board's report, and this is what I'm going to execute and what will be my engagement fees. And these days, because of the rotation norms, we have a cap of 5 years or 10 years. So depending on if it's an individual, then you're appointed for a period of 5 years. So even if it's a continued client, what is recommended and what we also do is to make sure that if there is any new information or development while doing the second year of audit, we evaluate these factors right in the beginning. And
put in here one question I want to put in here, like for example, the engagement terms and condition you mentioned. So it will be mentioned by the firm and it will also be accepted by the company.
Very good question. The SA 210 has an annexure which has the standard engagement agreement, a sample illustrative engagement agreement. If the student wants to see, it has to be mutually agreed. The two parts, different template. Like we follow a different template. What are the terms and conditions? What will be the scope? Similarly, every firm may customize, use what ICA has given it as a base, and keep on adding the clauses to mitigate the terms and conditions. For example, as an audit partner, I may not want to do an unlimited library. I need to get information on time, and therefore everything is documented in the engagement agreement, and the work should be started only when the agreement is signed. So yeah, the template is very much there in data standard, which can be seen. The second step is on the partner role comes at assigning of the right engagement teams. Now, it is very important to have the right engagement team. Now, if I talk about a firm with a larger setup, they may have a mixed variety of people. You will look at the expertise. For example, if you want to audit a bank or an NBFC, you want to have the person who has the FS expertise, the expertise in the banking sector, because there are lots of RBI regulation, which may not be applicable to a manufacturing company. Now, it does not mean that, if you do not have that set of people, experienced people, you cannot do an audit. No, that is not nowhere written anywhere like that. Yes, you have to work harder. You have to understand the RBI regulation, gain that experience, talk to the other chartered accountants, talk to the other auditors. And this is what we also do. So if a partner is getting an audit in a new industry and he hasn't done before, what he does is talk to his senior partner, talk to his peers and colleagues. And, the agreeing on the engagement team is something very important at the beginning. Also, within this phase, the partner, what an audit partner does is also evaluate whether expert is required to be involved. So there is a standard in auditing called SC620, use of the, the audit as expert.
Right.
So for example, you would have seen in the financial statements of the company, there are many open cases, litigations, income tax proceedings. So for that, I may be reaching out to my tax expert. I may want to reach out to a lawyer, because if there's a litigation case going on, I need to have a legal opinion in my file. I can't quote that legal opinion in my audit report, but definitely I can use it as my audit evidence. Similarly, the valuation expert. Now, you would have seen, because of COVID impact, what is something which is significantly impacted? One is your going concern, and second is your impairment assessment. Now, if I need to carry out an impairment assessment of my factory building or of my machinery, I need to involve a valuation expert.
Right.
So the audit partner, discuss with the team and finalizes in the beginning that whether I need to involve any external expert or my internal expert. So use of external expert is planned well in advance. And the very important point here is audit partner has to be in regular touch with the team. It cannot be that you have left the team and they're working at their own. The partner has to spend a lot of time. And then the third steps comes in the planning and audit strategy. Trust me, what we also mentioned and what we follow, that most of the, some minimum 20%, 15 to 20% time is spent in planning. If you have done a better planning well on time, when information will be, given by the management, talk to the management regularly. And when by the time the financial statement will be ready, I'll be ready with my, analysis, my procedures, my top 5 or 10 issues, which I need to focus on as an auditor. And therefore, the planning is something very important. And the engagement partner or the audit partner establishes an overall audit strategy that sets the scope, timing, and direction of the audit, and also guides the development of the audit plan. Again, when I'm planning, I'll again focus whether it's a private company or a public company. Now, let's say it's a large listed company, then I'll have to focus on my SEBI LODR regulations, the listing regulation, which is also, the students will have to go through. So there is a regulation called Regulation 33, which requires the equity listed company to file the quarterly results with the stock exchange. So you would be reading in the newspaper that, now the quarter is going on, right? The June quarter is ending, and there are a whole set of financial results in public domain, and the notes will come. And many of the, in fact, you will see a reduction this year, but if you pick up the last year results, many companies were talking about the COVID impact. The auditors were giving in the emphasis of meta paragraphs, whereas the management was giving a detailed note how COVID impacted their operations. There was a complete lockdown. So what I'm trying to explain is, again, depending on the nature of the company, depending on the sector. Now, if it's a manufacturing company, you will see a different set of issues. Now, if it's an IT company, you may have a different set of issues. So understanding the company really helps understand the macro and micro environment impacting the company. It could be a regulated company as well. So if it's an electricity company, you may have additional regulation. If it's a government company, you will have to look at the, the additional issues and talk to the industry experts and, what kind of issues could be envisaged in that company. The next step is the risk assessment. This is something very important. And I also, when I was a student, I used to wonder, what is this risk assessment? We have a whole set of auditing standards talking about risk assessment. So I'll just talk in a very simple language. Risk assessment is when a team and a partner put together identifies the significant risk, what could be envisaged in the audit client, And this will involve your experience with the same client if you're a continuing auditor, or maybe on your other clients. Using your knowledge which you gained when you accepted the client, and understanding the company's business and the significant activities carried on by the company, and also some of the key areas, for example, the related party transactions, for example. Now that could be my significant risk area, my impairment assessment, or my related financial reporting issues. Similarly, I would also see whether which gap is applicable, whether Indian gap is applicable or NDS is applicable. So this is something when I do my risk assessment, and depending on the risk assessment, I design my audit procedures. The auditor will design the audit procedure, the areas of focus, and basis that, the auditor decides that which procedures have to be performed, whether substantive procedures have to be performed, analytical procedures have to be performed. And in these days, because of remote audit, many of the auditors are using a whole lot of digital tools, the Excel-based tools, and even the ICA is also developing lots of tools for the practitioners. And if I talk about the two larger issues which the regulators are really concerned when they look at these companies, that is, one is your revenue recognition. That revenue recognition is something which has to be very closely seen by an audit partner, whether the revenue recognition is appropriate. There should be no recognition, deferral of revenue recognition, or you recognize just before the balance sheet date and then later on reversed it. And the second is handling of cash and bank account. So these are the two areas where auditor spends a lot of time, the audit engagement partner, and then decides its audit strategy. Within this, what is also expected for an audit partner is that to do a deep analysis of the of the company, which is akin to a corporate governance. When I say this, it means that you have to understand the policies followed by the company. Are there insufficient policies? For example, the independence policies, the code of ethics policies. Is there a whistleblower mechanism there in the company? And what are the policies followed by when we talk about inventory management, when we talk about selling and buying? So this is something the auditor needs to spend a lot of time in understanding the policies of the company as well. And then comes the understanding of the internal financial controls. And now this IFC is mandatory for all companies except few of the private companies. So when it is mandatory right from 2015 for all the companies, so the companies are expected to establish the ICFR, internal financial control, and then the auditor is required to report. So smaller companies might be facing a challenge, but in that case, probably the auditor again have to look at the guidance note issued by the ICA and look at whether the company has set up the minimum control. So for example, in a smaller organization, there could be segregation of duties and there could be manual controls. So again, the auditor will have to apply his professional judgment depending on the nature and size of the company. After this, I'll move to another step, which is the determination of materiality. Right. So materiality is something you would have heard a lot about the chartered accountant follows in when an audit is done. So audit partner decides the materiality again basis the nature and size of the company. Now the ICA has issued a standard called SH320, materiality in planning and performing an audit and determining materiality on the overall financial statement level as well as the account level. Now, why we determine materiality? Because there's a definition on materiality. The materiality means that this is a threshold basis which that when the auditor will decide whether it will the error which has been detected in the financial statement or the misstatement which is detected in the financial statement is material or not to the financial statements, to the readers. So when I say it is material, which means if that error is not corrected, it will influence the decision of the readers of the financial statement. So therefore, materiality is something which is decided by the auditor basis the guidance given in the standard and also basis the the nature of the company. So the two most common thresholds of materiality, which is a percentage of profits, or it could be a percentage of revenue. Similarly, many of the CA students would have already read in Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. There's a percentage defined, right? 1% of the revenue, or there was a percentage of materiality threshold defined from the financial statement perspective. So what my point here is that the company may follow a different materiality threshold and the auditor may follow a different materiality threshold. Now, what the auditor follows a materiality threshold is documented in the working papers, and basis that the auditor decides whether this is something needs to be adjusted, whether the report needs a qualification, and how it should be documented. Sorry, you have a question, Yogesh?
I know everything is going in line with what I have already told to my students. Like we do scope in and scope out in materiality, and we also find the performance materiality. Also, we find the clearly trivial items so that we can ignore those items because auditor has limited time for the audit, and that is one of the another reason why we find materiality.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, please carry on with these steps so that post that we can do a Q&A.
Okay. No, I think you raised a very valid point. The auditor gets a limited time. So in many cases, I mean, all this sounds good when I talk, but in many of the cases, the client gives information at a very later stage. And then there the struggle starts for the auditor to finish the audit on time and meet the statutory timelines. But yes, moving to the next step on designing the audit procedures. So once the materiality threshold is determined, now what is important is that the audit partner needs to review the planned audit procedures to obtain a thorough understanding how the audit procedures would be mitigating the risky or the sensitive audit areas. Mm-hmm. So for example, if the auditor has identified that the going concern issue can be a important. So if we talk about airlines in this environment or the hospitality sector, so going concern assessment is something which is, which will require a lot of time, how management is meeting its obligation, whether it's a highly leveraged company, it's relying on the external loans and financing. So how the company is going to meet its obligation. The company might be having a good financial condition, but again, 12 months from the balance sheet date, this is something which is even given in SA 570. So the auditor needs to see the cash flow assessment prepared by the management. So the partner see the cash flow analysis and then decides, whether the going concern assumption is appropriate. And when I talk about the procedures, it could be a combination of substantive and analytical procedures. The auditor also applies sampling and focus on key significant estimates areas like estimate key audit matter. So I'm not going to talk in detail about key audit matter, but it's mandatory for the listed companies under SA 701. So the auditor of listed company also focuses on key audit matter. Now, the next step is in monitoring the audit progress. So you have done your planning, you have designed your audit procedures, you're talking to the team. Now the audit partner has an important role to play to monitor the ongoing process. Now, this is very important in order to quickly identify and resolve the showstoppers, and therefore do not get surprised at the end. So if the audit team, if any of the member finds any issues, it has to be immediately highlighted to the audit partner, and that continuous interaction with the partner and the time spent by the partner also motivates the engagement team. So this is something, the ongoing progress has to be managed. And one very important thing while doing the audit, it could be a situation that any of the team member or the audit partner identifies any non-compliance with the laws and regulation, or even a suspected non-compliance with laws and regulation. For example, you noted a whistleblower letter, right? Or you noted a letter received from any regulator, any inquiry or investigation. Now that is something very important. The auditor should see what are the next steps to be taken by the management, have a clear dialogue with the management and see how it should be responded to the regulator, or whether whether the auditor needs to take an advice of the lawyer, because in everything the auditor cannot be an expert. So if needed, the auditor may also need to reach out to the lawyer. Another step 8 is on the review of audit documentation. Now this is something very, very important where the partners as well as the team spent a lot of time. Our auditing standard, each and every standard gives you a set of documentation, minimum documentation, which you have to maintain in your working file for a period of 7 years. If I'm not wrong, I think, it's 7 years. So which you have to maintain, documenting each and every audit step. So when an audit partner executes an engagement, if I talk about the entire engagement life cycle, it has to be documented in the file. So the engagement partner, the audit partner, review the specific working papers depending upon the risk assessment and communicate with the members of the audit team. The review should be conducted, so the partner has to conduct the review at the appropriate stages during the audit. And also the audit partner signs off at every review document. So when you want to learn, what are the experiences they are facing. So every audit partner is required to sign the audit documentation, agree with the members of the audit team, and maintain it as part of the working file. So maintaining right documentation is very important. Each and every, as I mentioned, auditing standard has the minimum requirement, and what is documented is not done. This is a clear, one should always remember, which will help in the long term as well. The next step is on the interaction with the auditor's expert. So I mentioned in the planning that when you identify that you need a valuation, you may need a IT professional or an index expert. So see what kind of consultation has been done with the audit expert. The team would have reached out as a partner. You will also reach out and look at the documentation and the conclusion of such consultation. As an audit partner, you should be fully convinced whether you agree with the basis, because the SA 500 clearly mentions you cannot mention the use of the work of the expert in your audit report. You cannot say that you have obtained a lawyer's opinion and you're relying on it. Yes, you can refer it in your EUM, maybe, or if you're qualifying, the company has obtained, the company can mention in the note, but you cannot use it as a reliance in your audit opinion. So again, involvement of an expert, how that work is to be used has to be seen by the audit partner. And the next step is on the interaction with the engagement quality reviewer. So I mentioned in the beginning that in addition to the engagement team, the expert, it could be an engagement quality reviewer also. The engagement quality reviewer is no one, but you can call a second partner on engagement. For example, it could be mandatory on a listed company. So because a listed company may have larger matters, involving professional judgment, professional skepticism, and therefore it becomes important that the engagement partner wants to consult with the second partner. If there are any differences of opinion, again, like in our firm, we may reach out to, again, a technical team to see, why there's a difference of opinion. So depending on if there's a difference of opinion, one has to discuss and resolve. And then comes the 11th step of very important is communication with the management. Now, this is something very important. And if anybody has a chance, I know these are CA students we are talking, but just to share, if I talk about the reports issued by the NAFRA, the AQR reports, which are in public domain, they talk about one of the important points is the auditor has not documented the communication with those charged with governance. So communication with management is something very important. There should be a two-way dialogue. The issues should be highlighted to the management on time, and then it should be clearly documented and resolved. And now lastly, reaching on the conclusion section. So everything, when you have completed all these steps, what is really important is to see the financial statements, how the financial statement have been drafted. Now, which is very important, the gap, the relevant gap, what is applicable, and the disclosure. So you look at the, you do a comparison with the previous year, you will carry out your analytical procedures. You will look at the disclosures. So now Schedule 3 will be applicable from the current year, the revised Schedule 3. So the auditor will have to be also aware about the recent development. So the engagement partner will look at whether the accounting standard checklist have been filled. Every firm may have a different policy. So if the accounting standard checklist have been filled, whether the auditing standard checklist have been completed. Now, what are the unresolved issues, and talking to the management, whether all the disclosures have been made. Because when the auditor, issues an opinion on the financial statement, it is a true and fair opinion on the entire set of financial statement. So it's not just on some of the disclosures, it's the complete financial statement, which includes even all the notes, your schedules, your additional disclosure given in the financial statement. And in fact, 2 years back, the ICI issued the revised standard SA 720 on the other information, which even covers your annual report. So if a public unlisted company or even a listed company is issuing the annual report a little later than the finalization of the financial statement, because you may have a different timeline in your company's act, the auditor is required to read the financial and the non-financial information given in the annual report and see if there is any inconsistency. So the auditor has a much wider responsibility. They will look at the financial statement, they will look at the other information, and then after looking at all this, the auditor will sign off his audit report. Again, signing off audit report is again not easy if you have a qualification. So let's say if there is a disagreement, for example, there's the accounting policy followed by the company for revenue recognition is not as per Ind AS or as per AS 9. And if there's a disagreement, the auditor will have to qualify the financial statement. The auditor will include a basis for qualified opinion. Similarly, the auditor also has to determine whether the matter is material and pervasive. And when I say material and pervasive, which is given in SA 705, when it means it affects the entire financial statement, the impact is not limited to a single financial line item, or it may be limited, but it is impacting the financial statement as a whole, and therefore the auditor may have to issue an adverse or a disclaimer of opinion. So this is something, on the signing of the financial statement. And at the end, I would, before we get into the Q&A section, I'll just say the success behind a very good audit is how much time the partner spent with his team in planning, and also the ground, the location. Because, for example, if I'm doing a real estate audit, I really have to see, the construction, the developments which are happening, the capitalization done by the company in the financial statement for a particular building, for a factory, and, what is the market value. So this is something very important as a partner one should see. So that's all, Yogesh.
Ma'am, you have given quite a lot of insight on how a partner look at a particular client while doing an audit. And if I show my audience that this is our, practical statutory audit course, and the number one thing is, which I mentioned, is client acceptance. Even I help the students and guide them on how to design a client acceptance form by seeing the parameters, like what things you will be, checking into the company, and to simplify whatever has been, steps have been defined by ma'am. So मैं थोड़ा सा जो है अपनी हिंदी भाषा में जो है आपको फटाफट से जो है क्विक गो थ्रू करने के लिए मतलब एक तरह से बता देता हूँ। मैम ने स्टार्टिंग में आपको ये बताया कि क्लाइंट की ऑडिट करने से पहले आपको क्लाइंट एक्सेप्टेंस के लिए कुछ पैरामीटर्स चेक करने होते हैं। कंपनी कितनी रिस्की है, उसके मैनेजमेंट ओनर्स हैं कैसे ऑपरेट कर रही हैं, क्लाइंट के बारे में जितनी इन्फॉर्मेशन आप पब्लिक डोमेन से निकाल सकते हैं और अपने सोर्सेज से निकाल सकते हैं, वो भी आप लोग चेक करते हैं। क्लाइंट एक्सेप्टेंस करने के बाद द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज द क्वालिटी कंट्रोल, जो स्टार्टिंग में स्टैब्लिश हो जाता है, क्योंकि आपका ऐसे 220 बोलते हैं, SQC भी है, स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन क्वालिटी कंट्रोल्स भी हैं जो कि फॉर्म पे लगते हैं। तो इन दैट सेंस जो है आपको ये चेक करना होता है कि जो भी इंगेजमेंट पार्टनर है, जो इंगेजमेंट को पहले एक्सेप्ट कर रहा है, दैट इज द फोरमोस्ट प्रायोरिटी। और मैंने आपको इंगेजमेंट लेटर भी दिखाया है ऐसे 210 में कैसे बनता है, उसकी टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन मैनेजमेंट एग्री करती है और उसके बाद ही जो है ऑडिट शुरू होता है। बट एट द पैरेलल एंड यू हैव टू आल्सो एस्टैब्लिश कि जो इंगेजमेंट पार्टनर है उसके साथ में एक पैरेलल पार्टनर और हो जो कि क्वालिटी को इंश्योर करे कि जो ऑडिट की क्वालिटी है वो मेंटेन रहे। एंड व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय क्वालिटी? क्वालिटी मीन्स दैट यू आर फॉलोइंग द स्टैंडर्ड्स ऑन ऑडिटिंग एंड यू आर नॉट टेकिंग एनी रिस्क, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली you are signing the report and giving an opinion, and which will affect the users of financial statement. They will rely on your statement. Like being in Equator Research in Nomura, I work there as well, and being as a banker as well, working in a bank right now as a chief manager, we rely on the financial statement supplied by the management. So as a chartered accountant, आप कहाँ तक जा रहे हैं? आप फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट को साइन करने तक जा रहे हैं, बट उसके बाद इतने सारे यूजर्स हैं जो स्टेटमेंट पर रिलाई करके फाइनेंशियल मॉडल डेवलप करेंगे। दे विल नॉट क्रॉस क्वेश्चन, like for example, while building a model in Equator Research and doing a projection, and I was thinking like कि ये गलत तो नहीं है या ये इसमें क्या हुआ होगा, because जब ऑडिट कर रहे थे तो सारी डिटेल्स हमारे पास होती थी उसके बैकएंड पर क्या क्या चीजें हैं। बट while doing an Equator Research, you are building a model and relying on the financial statement, the other counterpart will be saying like okay बस यही फाइनल है, यू कैन नॉट क्रॉस क्वेश्चन। और जो आपकी आदत है ना कि उसको पीछे बैकएंड पे जाके डिटेल में चेक करने की, वो चीज आपको नहीं मिलेगी। सो आंख बंद करके यू हैव टू रिलाई ऑन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स जो भी मैनेजमेंट ने सप्लाई करी, एंड इट्स एन ऑडिटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स। इवन इन द बैंक एज वेल, इफ यू आर पासिंग अ लोन, लेट्स से 500 crore, 1000 crore, मोर देन दैट, I mean, if you're working in a mid market or small as well. So audited financial statement is something which determine the rating of the company, internal rating of the company as well. Bank has their risk rating models as well. So why I'm giving relevance to this is because जो आपकी financial statement से जो साइन हो जाती है उससे बहुत सारे लोगों का डिसीजन जो है इम्पैक्ट होता है, राइट? इसके बाद मैम ने और बहुत सारी चीज़ें बताई, ऑडिट प्लानिंग, प्रोग्रामिंग एंड जो ऑडिट की स्ट्रेटेजी डिज़ाइन करनी है, वो सारी चीज़ें आपको देखनी होती है। एंड मैंने अपने कोर्सेज में थोड़ा सा और भी ने बोर्ड मीटिंग्स के बारे में भी अपने स्टूडेंट्स को बताया कि जो भी पूरे साल में बोर्ड मीटिंग्स या एनुअल जनरल मीटिंग या EGM होती है, उसमें बहुत ही की डिसीजन जो है हमें पता लगते हैं कंपनी ने क्या लिए हैं। तो आपको वो सबसे पहले रीड कर लेनी चाहिए, जो इनके कंप्लाइंसेस वगैरह हैं वो पहले आपको चेक कर लेने चाहिए। सेक्रेटरियल कंप्लाइंसेस भी हम पहले चेक कर सकते हैं, जिससे कि पता लग सकता है कि आपको इतना कैपेक्स मैनेजमेंट ने प्लान करा था, ये मे बी इम्पेयरमेंट के लिए मैनेजमेंट गो हेड दे रही है नहीं दे रही है। दे ऑल्सो टेक डिसीजन इन देयर बोर्ड मीटिंग एज वेल। एंड then definitely as we carry on the audit, regular monitoring is required and checking is required, materiality fixing is required. So I've shown them the sheet of how to scope in and scope out. So we take a range of materiality 0.5% to 2%, and also find a performance materiality and also clearly trivial items. So we can ignore items below that, and then scope out those items, so to save the auditor's time. However, if it is a statutory compliance kind of thing, then a smaller thing is what also matters, because a non-compliance can be, huge. There is a huge penalty and all those things can be there. So ये सब चीजें हमने डिस्कस करी थी, और अब मैं उस पर आ गया था एनालिटिकल रिव्यू पे. फॉर दैट आई particularly conducted this session, analytical review. Like for example, let's assume it's a new client. We have accepted the client a first set of financial statements supplied by the management. Now how a partner looks at a financial statement, उसको कैसे देखकर उसमें क्या ratios देखते हैं, क्या चीजें देखते हैं कंपनी के बिजनेस को समझने के लिए, just by looking at the financial statements, notes to accounts, to have some kind of convenience or a confidence build up करने के लिए, okay, this is what the company is. So what are those parameters you look at in a financial statement?
Yeah, Yogesh, I think you very well summarized the steps again in a much simpler language. When you get a financial statement, what you have to look is, some of them very important thing is for example, start with the policies followed by the company. The policies, what are the policies followed by the company for revenue recognition, for your other line items in the financial statement. And you will also do a comparison, what is the change when I talk about the previous year. So look at the previous year number and I see a very significant change. For example, if the company suddenly has taken additional loans, so why? What is the need for, where is that amounts being invested? Then you will also look at the corresponding investment, whether the amounts have been invested or whether there is any, something, there's a circulation of fund. Is it something which is something very important? Also, one important thing, one has to look at the group structure, because these days, a lot of transactions are being happening between the companies, and the regulator is trying its best to, fix those, intra-funding and intra-group transactions. And even the new requirement, which is coming in Schedule 3, as well as the auditor's report, which will be applicable from March 2022, it talks about the funds given to the intermediaries companies, ultimately for passing it to some other entity. So again, you have to look at the structure of the company. When I talk about the ratio analysis, so, some of the important ratios like debt equity ratio, which the auditor has to compute, the other ratios which the auditor will compute and see how is the financial position of the company. Do you believe that the company will have sufficient funds in hand, or maybe the liquid securities or the investment, the company will have the sufficient liquid investment so that there is no going concern issue on the company. So I think this is something very important to analyze as an audit partner perspective. Also, you need to see, the background of the company. So what is the nature of the operations of the company, whether it's a manufacturing company or whether it's a company, which is impacted by the changing regulations. So again, nature of the company matters a lot. So that is something described within the financial statement. The disclosure gives you a lot more information. So what I'm saying is there is an old saying that the detailed information is given in the notes and schedules. So what is really important for the auditor to see is the notes and disclosures given in the schedules and disclosures given in the financial statement, and not just the line item. So I was talking about the disclosure part, that it's not just the financial statement line item, but the auditor will, the auditor will go through the detailed notes and disclosures given by the company. For example, there could be an error. I was taking an example of a prior period error. So if a company following an Indian GAAP, the details will be given in the notes of the financial statement and not in the financial statements line item. So one has to look at the, what kind of error was, and what was the nature of the error, and whether it was an intentional error and how it impacted the company's line item. So whether it's impacting the profit of the company or whether it's impacting the, the revenue of the company. So I think this is something as an auditor one needs to carry out. Besides this, I think also look at the related party transactions. So related party transactions, might not be just evident on the face, but there's a detailed requirement given disclosures to be made in per AS 18. So if you see any, unusual transaction, related party transaction, for example, if you believe that the purchases and sales or, the nature of the transaction which are given in the notes is something which is significant, which is comprising a larger portion of your purchase or larger portion of your sales, then you need to question, the question should be raised from the management, whether the approvals have been obtained from the shareholders as required under section 188 of the companies, or if it's a listed company, whether the audit committee approval has been taken. So related party transaction is something, one. The second is something estimates. Estimates is something very important. So because when you look at your balance sheet, you will see a whole set, your property, plant and equipment, your intangible assets. So again, intangible assets is also something important to see what kind of intangible asset has been capitalized by the company, whether any, what is the basis for the capitalization and whether the company is amortizing it over a period of time. So all these of policies and, followed by the company has to be read. Now, as an experienced auditor, or maybe, the market value that the cost could be 1,000 to 1,200 per square foot. But, if you construct a house, it could be 3,000 to 4,000 per square feet. So, but if you see the building, the construction building, the office building capitalized at a higher rate, for example, 4,000 to 5,000, now that you might raise a question. So this is called something, again, applying your market intelligence and applying your, professional skepticism, and to look at the valuations and the capitalization done by the company. So, yeah, Yogesh.
So absolutely right. So इसको थोड़ा simplify कर देते हैं. जैसे कि first cut financials हमने देखे. So the thing which we should be looking at is the disclosure part as well. Not only the numbers but the disclosure, because जो भी numbers हैं उसके अंदर की जो हिडन चीज़ें हैं वो डिस्क्लोजर में मेंशन होती है, नोट्स टू अकाउंट्स में मेंशन होती है. पिछले साल से जो भी चीज़ें चेंज हुई है, दैट यू कैन कंपेयर बाय डूइंग प्रीवियस ईयर कंपैरिजन, और जो भी मेजर चेंज है यू कैन क्रॉस क्वेश्चन लाइक व्हाट इज दिस, लाइक इंटेंजिबल एसेट मैम हैज हाईलाइटेड कि अगर कुछ कैपिटलाइज करा गया है देन व्हाट वाज द बेसिस ऑफ कैपिटलाइजेशन एंड व्हाट इज द पर्टिकुलर थिंग दैट हैज बीन कैपिटलाइज्ड. इन फिक्स्ड एसेट में कितनी एडिशन है, मैनेजमेंट अप्रूवल है कि नहीं है, रेवेन्यू कितना परसेंटेज ग्रो कर रहा है, और पैट है, एबिडा है, वो कितना परसेंटेज मूव करा है, व्हाट वाज द रीजन फॉर दैट. सो इफ यू डू अ एनालिसिस ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर कंपनी एंड इन्वेस्ट लिटिल बिट ऑफ टाइम एंड रीडिंग द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट एंड डिस्क्लोजर पार्ट, डू सीइंग व्हाट इज डेट इक्विटी, इज इट the debt is increased and putting a lot much pressure on the company to carry on the operations because EBITDA margins are not enough. So what you can do is you can check the operational part of the company just by looking at the financial, understand the business of the company just by looking at the financials and notes to accounts. और यही पर्पस होता है कि आप एक कंपनी पे होलिस्टिक व्यू पहले ही बना लें ताकि आपको क्लियर रहे कि अच्छा दिस इज व्हाट द कंपनी इज डूइंग एंड दिस इज हाउ इट हैज मूव्ड फ्रॉम द लास्ट ईयर. राइट, जैसे किसी कंपनी में हो सकता है गोइंग कंसर्न इम्पैक्ट हो गया हो, जैसे कोविड में हो गया हो, सो इट विल बी क्लियरली विजिबल फ्रॉम द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट. नाउ फ्यू ऑफ द कंपनीज व्हिच आई got to deal with in my banking career, so there are few companies in which COVID has not impacted a bit, not a single percentage it has impacted. Even the company is growing at 30-40% rate and doing a capex. So you have to understand what is the reason why it's not impacting, why it is impacting. And peer, I think ma'am, peer industry analysis can be done, peer company or industry analysis can be done along with the company's financials to understand it better, how company is moving.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I mentioning that is something very important, what we call benchmarking. Benchmarking करना बहुत important है to understand what are the disclosures and are there any gaps, to understand कि the company is following something different from the industry.
Absolutely right. So I think it was a quite insightful session with the ma'am. Anything at the end, ma'am, you want to cross question me, or I mean give some inputs to the students who are CA finalists or want to make their career in statutory audit or want to go in a Big Four, because see they have their dream to go into the Big Four, and so that some experienced person can guide them if they have some experience, or if they know the procedure, like how they can approach.
Yeah, no, I just want to say what you are doing is really good, and I think you're explaining the technical things in a very simple and lucid manner. So my suggestion to students is to first of all focus on their studies and to clear the exams in the first attempt, become a successful chartered accountant, and it's very important for you And it's not any rocket science to come in a large firm. I think if you're doing the hard work, there are campus placements which happen, and there are it's because this is the only degree you need to have your chartered accountant degree, and you should have in-depth knowledge. You do your articleship, then please make sure you spend sufficient time in learning these skills, in learning how a partner or your senior, it could be even your manager, how that work is performed. I think this is something very important. And as a career advice, I would wish all the best to the student, because the auditor, as I mentioned in the beginning, you can have your COP the day you qualify your chartered accountancy. You can apply even for your own firm. You can set up your own firm, and you can even associate with any of the firms. These days, there are many small and ICA is also taking many steps to help the chartered accountant. So I would suggest to start dreaming of that okay, I aspire to become I want to set up my own practice, or I want to be associated with the larger firm. Whatever your dream is, just aspire for it, and you will achieve it with your hard work. I think that's all, Yogesh.
Really great advice. Before we move, just last question, which people, are asking me again and again from past many years and months, that whether automation is going to impact our jobs in future. This is the biggest question. So what's your opinion on that?
I think automation will only is aimed at helping the auditor, helping the auditor in execution of the audit work. It cannot replace the human intelligence or the professional judgment exercised by the auditor. With the increasing expectation of the regulator, which is going beyond the financial statements, what is the regulator is expecting. The automation is only aimed at making sure that you're able to execute the work with much in a much easier manner. So, for example, if I just talk about the remote audit these days, which everyone has to adapt given the situation, and even especially in the last year, then what was there a choice of not using these tools? So people were using these Zoom meetings even to do the inventory verification. You were using your simple tools. You can develop a tool even based out of Excel for sampling or your data analytics. So these tools will only facilitate that you can work in a more efficient manner. And automation definitely has to be in these days you cannot just say no, I'll not adopt these new ways of working. I think this is something a must, but you should look at it easing out your work, and when you are executing any audit, or whenever you are executing any engagement when you become a chartered accountant, and you should not be looking at that it's a replacement. Because when we become a chartered accountant, or the day when you join the CA course, a very important thing which you need to keep in mind is that you are going to become a person, a professional who has a diligent, or maybe a person who has to exercise his diligence, diligence in each and every work when you are doing. So looking thoroughly in the work papers which will come across to you, maybe reading between the lines, or maybe asking those smart questions, those intelligent questions. So I think that is something which can only remain with a chartered accountant. So Yogesh.
Really great. Yeah. So friends, no need to worry. Automation is not going to take your job. And if you are thinking of changing the career just because of this thing, like robots will take your job, then not going to happen in next 100 years, I guess. It will only ease out things and, provide you a little bit of more support of doing the repetitive task or mechanical task, which can be, automated with 100% accuracy. That's my take on it. And I also made a video on that. So it's also, confirmed by CA Deepa Agarwal ma'am as well. Thank you, ma'am, for so much of your time for this session. I think we have extended the session from half an hour to 1 hour. I'm really sorry for that. I've taken your, extra half an hour for this. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your time.
No problem.
And yeah, bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.